Let's ask the question, what is a fair pension? For example, why not compare pensions earned by military personnel to those collected by public safety workers? We have seen the case of Pete Nowicki. How about the case of Naval Officer Robert R. Rule, who graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1955? In the course of earning his pension, he spent time in flight training and as an executive officer on a warship patrolling the Atlantic and Mediterranean seas. By the mid-1960s, Rule had completed the first of 3 tours in Vietnam. In 1971, he was embedded with the South Vietnamese Army patrolling the Mekong Delta. Over his 20-year career, Rule's time away from home totaled about 10 years. This included the Vietnam tours as well as extended sea voyages. At the conclusion of Rule's 20-year tenure, he was awarded a pension totaling 50% of his salary. He was promised full health care, but in recent years a monthly premium has been assessed. A final note on military pay. The salary of the top American military officer is only about 8% more than the average local fire chief, and the general can't claim overtime. The question now is, where do we go from here?
And from the start, I will suggest that this is not about taking away anything from anyone who has already retired. And I think everyone will agree that's off the table, but I think that everything else has to be on the table. And I think everything else has to be on the table on every aspect of this, because that's the only way to close the gap, frankly. The accrued to date is set in stone, I believe, but going forward, you've got to change it.
We're at right now at impasse, and in fact, the last remaining thing is to look at the unearned pension benefit going forward. We have to do this to maintain every quality of life in a bit of quality of life in our city, and to have a sustainable future.
I remember at some point someone said, "Hey, you're the public defender, you can't do anything about this." Then I found out you can run an initiative, get enough signatures. We got 70,000 signatures in 10 weeks. We put it on the ballot last November. A measure that would do 2 things: require city employees to pay 9 or 10% into the pension, and pay a minimum of $9 towards their own health care if they chose the lowest cost plan. It failed. We got 120,000 yes votes, and we lost by 15,000 votes.
Recent months have seen pension and public sector spending battles in several states. Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey came into office in 2010 having clearly stated that he intended to control expenses, including an across-the-board reduction in state expenditures. After several months of union opposition, he ultimately got the upper hand, and reforms have begun to be instituted, such as raising the state retirement age and limiting certain salaries. Conversely, in Wisconsin, opposing sides battled for several weeks only to leave major reform unfinished. California will most likely address budget shortfalls at a glacial pace. Special interest groups have immense political leverage, and they are willing to use it to convince office holders to act in their best interest. Results thus far have been underwhelming. Several weeks after taking office, Governor Brown released a 12-point plan that had few realistic proposals addressing California's budget crisis. The Stanford University Little Hoover Commission called for the elimination of pension spiking, but the final legislative proposal was watered down by lawmakers. The future of pension expense in California is both good and bad. Polls indicate the public overwhelmingly favors reform. 401-style plans for new workers is the most likely revision that could be passed. Working against changes are entrenched interests that are already on the offensive in opposition to limits in spending. Any changes that are ultimately approved will likely only apply to new hires. Governor Christie summarized the situation by saying the day of reckoning is here.